Oh mein Gott. Ah!
That's her, Stanley.
Alter.
You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another,
Nein, ich will's ausstecken.
then... Oh, no. Did you just start with your phone? Well, that wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that?
Oh, ist der
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to
What the
finally
fuck?
found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to
Kommen wir
go
einfach mal
back to
weiter
my
hier. Ich
boring
glaube, der labert das ganze
work.
Spiel durch.
I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid.
Köpfe.
So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined
What?
himself soaring
What?
through space on a magical
Flickert echt.
starfield, and it
What?
appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was
Was?
he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And one thought it all very odd, and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams. The truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up.
Nein!
He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
WTF. Okay, ich bin noch hier. Das war jetzt ein ziemlich langer... Wir wollen doch nicht sicher.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office.
What?
I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real.
Was?
I must be real. I must
Lauf,
Can
lauf!
Hear my voice. Who am I? Who am I?
Ah!
Everything went black.
Ah! Was? Nein!
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Who the fuck?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
What?
Ich hab noch nie so oft what the fuck gedacht. Also, was?
Haben wir jetzt verkackt gerade, weil wir zu lange gebraucht haben oder so? Zwischendurch habe ich mich in einen Videosequenz... Hä? Irgendwie haben wir es verkackt. Okay. Man kann in verschiedene Arten sterben, musst du immer wieder von vorne anfangen.
Ja, wir sind wahnsinnig gerade geworden, haben es selbst umgebracht.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Ja, okay.
What could it
Was?
mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Also Niklas hat sich jetzt
Ich habe mich umgesetzt vor ungefähr 10 Minuten und konnte noch gar nicht spielen. Alter, das ist ja so geil, einfach nur.
Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors. He entered the door.
Aber ich wette, das klappt auch nicht, wenn man denen die ganze Zeit folgt.
Nee. So, jetzt gehen wir hier durch den Konferenzraum.
Yet there was not a single person here either.
So, in der Abstellkammer waren wir die ganze Zeit.
Stanley decided to go up to his boss's
Geh mal
office.
hoch.
Hope coming to a staircase.
Du kannst ja
Stanley
unten auch
walked
noch
upstairs
weiter
to
lang
his
gehen,
boss's
ne?
office.
Noch weitergehen.
Wir
Geh mal
können-
unten weiter.
Komm, wir gehen mal schnell weiter unten. Mal gucken, ob das gleiche passiert. Das war schon mega creepy, Alter.
But Stanley just couldn't do it.
So,
He
lauf
considered
jetzt.
the
Einfach
possibility of
durchlaufen.
facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours.
Hä?
He
Das sah
might
eben
be
anders
fired for that.
Nee, ich...
And in such a competitive
Das ist
economy, why had
Was?
he taken
Oh,
that
Scheiße.
risk? All because he believed
Was?
everyone had
Oh,
vanished.
ich glaube, das können wir jetzt Ganze
His
nochmal
boss
gucken.
would think he was crazy. And then something
Irgendwie-
occurred to Stanley. Maybe, to
Was?
himself,
Ich komm nicht mehr hoch.
maybe
Warte mal,
I am
sonst versuchst du
crazy.
gleich... Ah, nee, die
All of
Türen
my
gehen ja immer
coworkers
zu, ne?
blinking
Ja.
mysteriously out of existence in a single moment.
Oh, scheiße, wir sind so blöd.
None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other
Ja, wir können jetzt ein bisschen
strange
drüber quatschen, das kennen die alles schon. Aber ich habe keinen Bock, das
observations. Why
dauert so
couldn't he
lange.
see his feet?
Vielleicht schneiden wir das auch einfach.
Ja, ich kann meine
Why
Schuhe
did
nicht sehen. Nee, wir
doors
können
close
weitermachen.
automatically behind
Glaubt
him
er, dass wir
whenever
weitermachen
he
können?
Klar.
Klar doch.
These rooms were starting to look pretty familiar.
Worüber reden wir denn so?
Ah, jetzt macht auch Sinn, was er sagt.
Stanley
Wiederholt
said
sich
to
die
himself,
Räume,
"This is
weil ich nur
all
in den
too
Kreis gehe.
strange. This can't be real." And at
Manchmal eben sind wir einfach
he came
stehen
to the
geblieben.
conclusion
Stimmt.
that it had
Ja.
been on the tip of his tongue.
Weil
Alles auf einmal dunkel und Sterne und Augen zu und tot.
Dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream.
So, jetzt gehen wir andersrum.
What a relief Stanley felt
Ah, nee,
to
Tür
have
ist zu.
finally found an answer, an explanation.
Scheiße! Ich bin hier
He
raus.
wasn't going to lose
What
his
the
job.
fuck, Leute?
He wasn't crazy after all.
Wie kann man auf so eine
Thought
Idee
to
kommen?
himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go
Warte mal.
back.
Wir können nochmal neu starten.
Komplett neu?
Ja, ist ja dann wieder von Anfang gerade, wie gerade.
Ja, okay, stimmt.
Ist ja nicht schlimm. Guck.
Ach, cool.
Okay, das wissen wir
Already
jetzt
this was
auch.
uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would
Ja, ja,
never
und
do
jetzt
it
können wir da
again
einfach
lang
in his
gesagt.
life.
Ja, ganz am Anfang.
Achso.
Cool. Nee, also ich hab gedacht, Anti-Chamber wäre schon mindfuck-mäßig, aber das,
He entered the door and he
ja, ne?
left.
what the... Nein. Also,
So, und jetzt gehen wir zum Boss, weil unten geht's ja nicht weiter.
ja. Und wenn ich bedenke...
Boah, oder wir gehen nochmal auf die andere Seite, wo dieses Ding war, wo du auch rüberfahren konntest mit diesem Lift.
Dann müssen wir
Wo
zuerst
du
rechts rumgehen.
runtergesprungen bist.
Ja, komm, dann gehen wir da mal lang.
Stimmt.
Da gehen wir jetzt mal... Ah,
Ja,
die Tür ist
scheiße.
zu. Neu starten kurz, oder?
Ja.
Komm, wir machen mal kurz neu starten. Wir wollen ja alles hier mitnehmen.
Ja, also das ist natürlich gut, wenn das, also ich nehme an, du musst das Spiel scheinbar in einem Mal durchspielen. Und ich nehme an, du kannst auch in diesen 4 Minuten wahrscheinlich schaffen, wenn du einfach durchrennst oder so.
Stimmt, das kann sein. Weil es gibt einen Erfolg, der heißt, beende das Spiel in 4 Minuten.
Ja.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
Aber macht ja auch Boss. Macht so mega Bock einfach nur.
Also echt krass. 12,99 hat das auf Steam gekostet.
11,99.
11,99. Lohnt sich. Lohnt sich jetzt schon.
Also man kann ja anscheinend auf verschiedene Arten failen. Das ist schon mal lustig. Das ist echt cool.
Das kann man in der Demo nicht, ne? Da wurde immer gesagt, tu das und das.
Ja.
Wow. Yes.
Stimmt. Ja gut, hier waren wir
So, hier waren wir auch schon.
Mal gucken, was der sagt, beim direkt losgeht.
Ja komm, geh mal direkt durch.
Ja, guck, das hat hier wieder was anderes. Hier können wir auch noch rein.
Das war das. Da sind wir...
Ne, hier kann
Ah,
man...
genau, wir sind gerade aus... Ne, das ist glaube ich der Konferenzraum da.
Nee.
So, jetzt rennt er direkt auf das Teil da drauf.
Ja klar, und bleib auch drauf stehen dann.
Ja. So.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me.
Ich glaube, ich träume heute von der Stimme.
Asking for her.
Oh yeah.
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life.
Okay.
Nee, so einen Arbeitsplatz will ich auch später mal.
Irgendwas mit einer Frau? Okay.
Bumblebee.
Alter, das ist dunkel.
Nein, ich will da nie rein. Geh rückwärts rein, geh rückwärts rein. Ja, so ist das Beste. Oh mein Gott. Ah!
That's her, Stanley.
Alter.
You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another.
Ich will's ausstecken.
Then oh no. Did you just well, that wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that? You actually chose incorrectly. I didn't even know that was possible.
Sorry.
Let me double check. No, it's definitely here, clear as day. Stanley picks up the phone. He's taken to his apartment where he finds his wife, and the two pledge themselves to one another. Music comes in, fade to white, roll credits. Not picking up the phone is actually somehow an incorrect course of action. How is that even possible? None of these decisions were supposed to mean anything.
Das denn, Leute?
I don't understand.
Viel moderieren kann man hier gar nicht, weil...
Das Spiel macht das.
Wait a second.
Also...
Did I just see... No, that's not possible. I can't believe it. How had I not noticed it sooner? You're not Stanley. You're a real person. I can't believe I was so mistaken. This is why you've been able to make correct and incorrect choices. And to think I've been letting you run around in this game for so long. If you'd made any more wrong choices, you might have negated it entirely. It's as though you completely ignored even the most basic safety protocol for real-world decision-making. Or did you not grasp the severity of the situation? Well, I won't have that kind of risk on my watch. I'm going to stop the game for a moment so we can educate you properly on safe decision-making in the real world. Please observe this helpful instructional video.
Alles klar.
Ja, Instruction Video.
Choice. It's the best part of being a real person. But if used incorrectly, can also be the most dangerous. For example, in this scenario, a hypothetical real person named Stephen has a choice. He could spend years helping improve the quality of life for citizens of impoverished third world nations. Or he could systematically set fire to every orphan living in a 30-kilometer radius of his house. Which choice would you make? Remember that unlike here, the real world makes sense, and at no time should you make a choice that does not conform to rational logic. If you find yourself speaking with a person who does not make sense, in all likelihood, that person is not real. Allow the person to finish their thought, then provide an excuse why you cannot continue talking. Turn to a partner and practice saying, "My goodness, is it 4:30? I'm supposed to be having a back, sack and crack."
What? Practice?
Okay.
Jetzt kommt der praktische Teil, oder was?
Scheinbar.
Excellent.
Huh?
Making choices on a regular basis
Einfach nur.
is the best part to a healthy decision-making process.
TubeTekkers.
Most medical professionals recommend making at least 8 choices per day. Do you make more than 8? Less? And finally, if you begin to wonder if your choices are actually meaningful and whether you'll ever make a significant contribution to the world, just remember that in the vast infiniteness of space, your thoughts and problems are materially insignificant, and the feeling should subside. At this time, your instructor will guide you in an exercise to test and reinforce the material covered in this video.
Nice.
Welcome back.
It's
You may
training.
have noticed that this room has begun to deteriorate as a result of narrative contradiction. But not to worry. Now that you're properly informed on good decision-making, we're going to revisit a choice you made just a few minutes ago and see what the correct thing to do would have been. This way, please.
Guck mal, wie die jetzt hier einfach die ganzen Fehler eingebaut haben. Als wäre das jetzt voll scheiße, weil wir so schlecht spielen. Soll ich jetzt nochmal reingehen?
Ich hab keinen... Stop.
More charts. Please, I'm begging. Was kann ich hier machen? Das Telefon? Nee, ich soll
Geh einfach wieder raus.
Aber wir haben noch so viele Möglichkeiten, Alter.
So viele Möglichkeiten.
Ich glaube, man kann das Spiel echt schnell durchspielen, aber es geht halt darum, dass man viele Möglichkeiten wahrscheinlich ausnutzt. Kann ich wieder rein? Ne. Und wir zeigen natürlich auch möglichst viel, weil es einfach so viel Bock macht.
Das ist echt mega.
Kann wir hier rein?
Nee.
Ne.
Was Ding fährt nicht zurück, oder?
Ja, wenn ich hier drauf gehe, bestimmt schon.
Now that we know your choices are meaningful, we can't have you jumping off the platform and dying. Imagine the main character dying senselessly halfway through the story. That story would make no sense at all.
Das kennen wir ja
We
schon.
just need to get you home as soon as possible before the narrative contradiction gets any worse. Unfortunately, it seems this place is not well equipped to deal with reality.
Dankeschön. So, ich würde sagen, wir machen an der Stelle mal eine kurze Pause.
Ja, wir machen mal kurz eine kurze Pause. Ich speichere das hier mal alles soweit, checken mal, ob alles noch läuft und so weiter und so fort.
Und nehmen dann gleich auch direkt weiter, weil ihr seht das wahrscheinlich gleich direkt hier im Anschluss oder morgen wieder.
Ja, mal gucken, wie wir das machen.
Wir machen auf jeden Fall noch weiter, das ist mal ein mega Bock. Das ist Hammer.
Ich will mal sagen, bis dahin und
bis später, Leute.
Ciao.
Tschö, tschö.
Tschö.